In this video, I wanted to respond to a question that someone asked in Belle's first session in therapy. The question is, one thing I'm confused about is, what if your inner critic is truly rooted in truth? For example, if you are lazy, rude, selfish, unemployed, grumpy, isolated, friendless, etc. So firstly, just to contextualize the comment that I made in the session this person is referring to, I made the point that sometimes
our inner critic has a grain of truth. Doesn't here, I want to be clear. but sometimes our inner critic has a grain of truth. And then it takes the grain of truth and it creates a mountain of misery. So sometimes, for example, we're in an interaction with somebody and we're tired, blood sugar's low, we're a bit ratty, and we say something that's a bit chippier than we mean it to. Mm-hmm. Right? We've all done it. Mm-hmm. And then we come away from it and there's a grain of truth. Like, we didn't actually express in that moment the genuine kindness we do feel towards that person.
Yeah.
And then our inner critic doesn't leave us alone for days afterwards. Mm. And it turns it into, you are the most unkind, selfish, awful person. I'm amazed that you've got any friends. If they really knew what you were like, no one, like, it becomes like this enormous barrage of attack. Mm. But there's like a minor moment where we just weren't as skillful as we could have been.
Yeah.
So part of the thing that the inner critic hides behind is sometimes it's got like this little bit of truth that it turns into this enormous weaponization of that.
So then coming back to this person's question, what if our life really isn't where we want it to be? What if we are in a place where we actually are being lazy, we're not committing to change, we're being unkind towards other people, and our inner critic is really just speaking truth about that? Well, here's the first thing. We need to separate facts from judgment. Maybe those things are true. Maybe they're partially true. Attacking ourselves for those things typically leaves us less resourceful and less able to action change, because not only do we have those issues, but we now have a sense of powerlessness, hopelessness, uselessness about those issues. And so it may well be the case the primary driver of all of this stuff is the inner critic. So we still need to defend. It's one thing to call out truth and say, I need to sort this out. It's another thing for our inner critic to say, and that means you're awful, you're terrible, you're this, you're that. So getting more space, being able to defend against our inner critic, actually allows us to claim more of our inner resourcefulness, which actually then allows us to action the changes that we need to action to deal with what's happening in our life. The next question that I would come to is, why is our life in this place? If we are being cruel, mean towards other people, the phrase that comes to mind for me is hurt people hurt people. People that are suffering often act in ways that are unkind and cruel towards other people because they almost want other people to feel the pain they're feeling, or there's a sense of resonance and connection by other people being in pain. We feel less alone in our experience. So then we need to get to the core of like, what's really going on here? What are the traumas? What's the history? What's the past? Particularly in some of the characteristics this person's describing, it sounds like there is a lack of personal power, a lack of belief in one's ability to create an action change in our life. As I mentioned, getting some distance from the inner critic is going to be helpful, but then we need to grow that muscle of, okay, well, if I'm being lazy, I'm going to start to exercise, for example. Or if I'm being cruel to other people, I'm going to start to repair some of those actions or things that have happened in the past. And so if we can start to commit to changing those habits, changing those behaviors, it can take some effort, it can take some time for the change to be seen, but we can start to change these things. I recently recorded a video exploring self-esteem, what it is, what creates it, and how we can build more of it. I talked about earned self-esteem. Like we earn our self-respect by the way that we live and the actions that we take. So my advice to this person is work on defending against your inner critic. Observe the way that I work with Belle with this, and then work on changing some of these pieces. Earn your own self-respect. That is going to give you a lot of power to defend against your inner critic, because no longer will it feel like your inner critic is speaking truth. Creating change takes time, but it's actually ultimately the easier path. Staying on the path we're on when we're suffering takes more effort in the long term than actually committing to doing the work. If you want to learn more about how the inner critic is created and some of the steps we can go through to break free from it, do check out my book, It's Not Your Fault: Why Childhood Trauma Shapes You and How to Break Free. And let me know in the comments below this video, was this helpful? What's helped you get freedom from your inner critic? And then I'm going to create some more videos like this responding to your questions. I hope this has been helpful. Thanks for watching.